Morning, guys. This is the Tech Prepper. Actually, it's about the middle of my dry run, but stay tuned. We're going to do a full day of setting up for Winter Field Day 2021 about 2 weeks in advance and making sure all of our gear works. I'm in the backyard and I'm about to have my first sip of coffee. So if you guys don't mind, sit back. This is going to be a long video, but I'm going to walk you through everything I'm doing. I guess before we look at the tarp shelter, let's take a look at the pack. So I have all of my sleeping system and shelter system strapped to the bottom of the pack. I have my Haley Strategic flat pack with all of my HF and VHF UHF gear. I've even included this Ratty emergency radio. I'm evaluating it for a different purpose, but thought I'd try it out today. And then my pack contains all the gear I need to support myself, food, water, and gear. And then I have my chest rig and trekking poles. So let's get started with the tarp shelter. Well, guys, that was pretty easy. It's typically never this easy out in the field. I was able to deploy my tarp shelter in 5 minutes and 15 seconds. Let's take a quick look for those of you guys who are not familiar with the system I have. So at the bottom here, I have a typical camping stake, some 550 cord, and then I attach to it, or actually the way that I adjust the length is with a taut line hitch. It's really quite nice because I can actually slide this up and down to adjust the pull or the length. Then I carry trekking poles to help assist myself on the hike on the way up. And then these actually connect quite nicely into the grommets on this tarp shelter. And the other side is exactly the same. Now what's nice about this tarp is that it has a reflective side. So this actually does cut down the heat quite a bit in the summer. And then on the bottom, I just take the other tent stakes and drive those through the grommets. And this is probably, I don't know, about my 10th deployment using this setup. And I just think it's great, especially if you already hike with trekking poles. All right, guys, so up next, we're going to go ahead and set up the components under the tarp shelter. I have my Trekology aluminum folding table and then a small sleeping pad. This pad will basically work double duty. It will be the thing I sleep on at night to keep myself off the ground and have some insulation between me and the cold floor, but I also use it as a place to sit when I'm operating. Alright guys, so the table setup was pretty straightforward. While it's a little bit of weight, I do like this setup and it makes just operating very comfortable. I also went ahead and put out my thermostat, and it looks like we're running 48 degrees Fahrenheit at about 8 a.m. local time. So the next thing I want to do is set up my sleeping system, starting with my tent, and we're going to go ahead and see how that works. Now I don't have a whole lot of room here, so I'm hoping the footprint will actually fit here, but that's why we do these dry runs, is to see how well we're able to actually do our deployments. All right, you guys, there's a few issues. The problem I've had with this, I think it's the tungsten two-person ultralight, is that they use a lot of plastic. Well, let's take the camera off. They use a lot of plastic clasps, and I'm a bit of an oaf. And as you can see here, I've snapped this off before. This piece broke before. Not a huge deal, but typically I carry with me some zip ties. I'll check my pack later, but if not, that's something I'm going to add to my checklist. All right, guys, so let's take a look at the radio gear. And we'll start with removing some of the straps here. And the way that I designed this system here is to cinch my flat pack onto the 511 pack. And we're just going to go ahead and remove the MOLLE straps. All right, and there you have it. So on the outside here, we have our handheld radio. This is the Yaesu FT60R. It's my 2-meter 440 primary, and I have an extra battery for this. All right, so inside the bag we have our hand mic, and then I have three 3-liter dry bags. And this one is the radio. And as I mentioned before, the nice thing about the flat pack is that we can actually cinch down the compartments. So there's a little zipper here on the back. And now I have a nice lightweight day pack if I want to go hit the trail. The outer compartment is fully opened as well. Right now I have my puffy jacket in there. I realized that I did not have space inside the pack. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and start unpacking some of this gear. The first 3-liter pouch has my Yaesu FT818ND. And these dry bags are fantastic because they give you a little bit of peace of mind in terms of waterproofing your high-end HF gear. And as before, I do carry the portable zero rails for additional protection. And I'm not going to be operating digital on winter field day. I just decided I don't want the bulk and more stuff to charge. I'm actually only going to bring a 4.5 amp hour battery and use the energy of the sun to top that off. So more on that in a second. And isn't this table perfect? I mean, it's really nice to have a place to lay out your gear. Okay, so let's take a look at the next kit here. Okay, so I'm using an old GoPro case, and this case contains all of my kind of electronics for charging things up. I have the power film extension cables. I'm going to run the solar panels on the top of my tarp shelter. I have intentionally set this facing south so that we can effectively get as much sun as we need. I also have a 4.5 amp hour Bioenno battery, an extra battery for my Yaesu FT60R, the handheld, and then we also have the Buddipole. So there'll be some cool metrics I can actually capture. Oh, and I also brought my Mobilink D. I will be doing lots of experiments with APRS here in the field. And I know I'm going to forget this, but I did not go over my goals. We'll do that when we make coffee and have some breakfast. So first thing we're going to do is take our Buddipole Power Mini. We're going to connect the battery in. Make sure we have the correct polarity. And one thing I think I forgot are the solar panels. So this is absolutely why we do this test, but I'm going to finish setting this up first. And then I have a small Anderson, small power cable with Anderson power poles to connect the load on one side here to our radio. And we'll just turn it on to make sure it works. Perfect. All right, guys, like I said, I forgot my first item. This is the PowerFilm 20-watt folding panel. It comes in at just over a pound, which brings my total dry gear weight to 67 pounds. So I'm going to try to drape this over the tarp. And then I purchased this separately from PowerFilm. I forget what the length is. It looks to be about maybe 3 feet. So I'm hoping I'll be able to have a nice drop down to the Buddipole Power Mini. And it has a nice Velcro. There's the attachment points. I added some carabiners in advance, so we'll see how this works as a first deployment. All right, guys, so I went ahead and pulled some cordage out of my bag. Luckily, I brought a bunch of these S-style carabiner clips. I put another taut line hitch so I can change the pull on this. And with the amount that I cut, I'm actually going to need to pull this all the way out. And then we're going to go ahead and just clip this like that. My homemade fire pit is getting in the way here. So we're going to go ahead and connect our line here. Okay. We got a nice snap there. And I can't remember if this came with Anderson power poles or if I connected it myself. Either way, it's nice to have Anderson power poles everywhere. And I'm going to go ahead and disconnect my radio real quick while I plug in the panels. Let's take one more look at the configuration. So the panels are fully deployed. Again, this is the 20-watt version of the PowerFilm folding panels. We've connected it with an S-clip carabiner to our tarp shelter. Since the panel does not go the full length, I had to get some 550 cord, and then I have a taut line hitch to adjust the length of the line. I also have the extension cable. It's 3 feet, and that's going down into the Buddipole Power Mini. Next up, guys, we're going to go ahead and set up the SOTABEAMS mast, and we're going to run the Pactena Mini end-fed half-wave and see if we can get anybody on 20-meter single sideband. Well, guys, this is turning out to be a very interesting experiment. I knocked over the tarp shelter a couple times with these boots. To be honest, I don't know if I'm going to continue to use these lacrosse boots out here in the desert. I should have gone with leather. I should have gone with standard height leather boots and then supplemented it with snake-proof gaiters. I am sweating and I'm knocking stuff over walking around in these boots, so boots are gonna go. So we're gonna try to do this. I don't know if it's gonna come on film, but let's walk through the antenna setup. So this is the carbon 6 carbon fiber mast. It is 19 feet 6 inches, I believe. We're gonna go ahead and jump the wall and see what type of run we need to position that. In the dry bag, I have a new piece of kit. Typically, I would stake down this end of the mast with a camping stake and then guy out the wires. I found a portable camera mount that is based on a stake system. So you drive this portion into the ground, and then there are about 4 or 5 of these plastic segments, and at the top there is a 1/4 inch set of threads, which I won't be using. So I figure between these 2 segments I should be able to have at least the bottom portion of the mast pretty well stabilized, so I don't even know if I'm going to need the guy line. So I'll jump the fence and let's see if I can do what I want to do. Also take a look at the kit. What I like to do when I run this antenna out, and we're dealing with the Pactena Mini end-fed half-wave. I still owe George a review on this unit, and it is extremely lightweight and compact. I've taken this on 5 SOTA activations, 4 of which I actually activated the peak, and this guy was able to get me out on 20 meters without issue. Okay. All right, guys, so the first thing we're going to do is extend the SOTABEAMS mast. The way that I like to run it is it comes with a small loop at the top, and I put some electrical tape around it so that I can clip the carabiner from the antenna feed line. Then I will just run over the guy ring, and all we do is pull and twist a bit. So So we're twisted, pull and twist, pull and twist, pull and twist, pull and twist, and I just let the guy ring continue to slide down to the bottom. And my apologies, guys, I'm only going to get one shot at this, so this is really raw footage. It would be nice to have someone help me filming, but I'm doing the best I can with the tripod. I guess it's more important maybe to have the content out there. All right, and we're finally kind of locked down on this last segment here. Again, I don't know if we're going to need it. And one thing to keep in mind is these caps at the bottom and the one at the top. I always put these in my pocket so I don't lose them. And the other thing I like to do is keep a piece of electrical tape around the bottom here, just in case I need to patch something up. All right, so if you guys can still hear me, I've driven down the stake. That'll be an interesting experiment. Now I'm going to bring back the mast and clip it on to this end here. And what's nice about the Pac-10 Mini end-fed half-wave is it does come with an S-clip carabiner. All right, that's all connected. Now I'm taking a big risk here. I can't exactly figure out how far we're going to be. Usually I don't mind a little bit of slack. All right, so there's a little bit of a lean there, so I'm gonna go ahead and before I guide this out, I'm gonna jump back over the fence and see roughly where I land. All right, so I'm about maybe 6 or 7 feet too short, so I'm just gonna take the stake out, move it back a bit, and we'll see how that works from there. Actually, I think that's gonna work. I'm gonna go ahead and guide out. So I'm going to show you my guide cables. One thing to note is I left my stake bag over there, so I'll have to go back and get that. But I've pre-cut 550 paracord with a carabiner on each side. One side has an overhand knot and the other one has a taut line hitch, so I can adjust the length. And I have 3 of these. And back over the wall again. So we have 3 tent stakes and they already have rope here, so it's nice to be able just to drive them down and then clip on those S-clip carabiners. All right guys, if you can still hear me, we're gonna go ahead and just adjust the taut line hitches. All right, now if I haven't screwed up, we should be able to attach our RG316 and get on the air in just a couple of minutes. Here's the RG316. And it's high loss, but I'll be operating on HF, so less concerned. So we're a bit short. I should have gone out another like 5 feet or so. So I'm gonna go ahead and make some adjustments. All right guys, so something interesting happened while I finished the antenna deployment. I ran out of batteries and I went ahead and switched out the battery. I brought 3 of them all together, including the one that was inside. And I went ahead and took that spent battery, put it in the charging cradle, and have attached it to the Buddipole Power Mini 5-volt USB. Right now, we are producing quite a bit more solar. We're at 480 milliamp, which is pretty good. And that's actually enough for me to probably keep everything charged up and topped off. So this 4.5 hour Bioenno battery should take me through field day. So now that we have our station set up, we have our solar panels generating power and topping off some of our batteries. Before we get into playing radio, let's talk about some of the other items that I brought with me. I'm in the Sonoran Desert, so I have to think about water. I have 2 1 liter smart water bottle containers. I like these because the plastic is pretty durable. People that do through hikes tend to prefer these. I also like them because it has threads. So my primary method of water purification is the Sawyer Mini inline filter. I do have one goal to actually hit a water hole that I hear exists a few miles from my location, out where I will be. So that's one other thing I want to do during field day, is make sure that I can test getting water. I'm bringing all the water that I need, roughly a gallon, but just another one of my goals to knock out while I'm out in the field. In addition to the smart water bottles, I also like to have about 3 of these Camelback 750 milliliter water bottles. I like them because you can take a carabiner and clip these just about to any, you can clip these to any attachment point on your pack. I'm a big coffee fan, so a lot of what I'm bringing is to support my coffee habit. So I have a fresh can of Coleman propane butane mix. This will be enough for me to prepare several cups of coffee and then cook a few meals. The primary method will be of cooking will be in my nesting cup. I also have a small pan. I like the nesting cups because it also offers protection in the pack, so you can place other items like the stove and or even nest your water bottle, and it's pretty efficient in terms of space. I have a very old aluminum cook pot. This is roughly, I don't know now, 32 years old, and in there I have a small sponge to clean my cookware, and then I have a small stove. So while I'm talking, let's go ahead and get the stove going and get some coffee. And I know that right now the pack is at 66 or 67 pounds. I'll probably start working on reducing some of the weight, and I think I may start with replacing this old stovetop that I've had since I was about 7 or 8 years old. And it did have a striker that's gone out, but that's expected given how long I've had that. Pro tip for you guys that aren't hikers or backpackers, it's really nice to be able to cut a sponge in half and use that for cleaning. I use very little of my actual water that I carry to clean, and I basically do a really good job scraping everything. Oh, well, we got one hit out of the striker. That's interesting. So we're going to put our nesting pot here and start boiling some water. And I'm curious, this video is going to come out well before Field Day 2021. What are you guys' thoughts on actually coming out and doing something like this? It's a lot of effort, as you can tell. I think I spent about 2.5 hours setting up already, and I still have not really got on the air other than checking that I can receive. All right, so while the water's going, the other piece of kit that I really enjoy are these hot lips. I'll put a link down below. This is one of those affiliate items I really like, and they clip onto the outer rim so I can drink directly out of my searing hot nesting cup. And then in terms of coffee, and we'll talk about food, I tend to put everything I need in the Ziploc bag. So this is all the food that I will have over the 30-hour window. And I brought 5 packets of these Via Starbucks instant coffees, and they're just fantastic for the trail. I wish they had these when I was younger doing this. So it's a really great way, very little in terms of trash that you need to pack back out. So hopefully that'll be done in a second. So I'll be starting out with lunch. So lunch for me will really be more of snacks, because I'll start out with a good breakfast. I had one this morning, some eggs and some coffee, but when I get out there, set up my camp, after I have my coffee, make a contact or two, I'll probably have some beef jerky, a Cliff Bar, and some fruit snacks. So not the healthiest of meals, but they all pack nicely, and I like the way everything here tastes. dinner's gonna be pretty light. I just am bringing some top ramen. I'll boil some water. I'll use the, actually I'll drink all the water as well. So that's the other thing to keep in mind is not all of your water will be drinkable. Some of it needs to be used for cooking. Some of it will also be used for cleaning. Breakfast the next morning, it's not the greatest thing, but I don't need refrigeration. So I'm gonna have some Vienna sausages with my coffee and a little pack of oatmeal. And then I have a few extra snacks in there. My chest rig also has some other cured meats as well. But that's pretty much it. I also like to bring with me about 3 napkins, 1 for each meal, just to help with wiping down. And then these bags also double as the trash bag, so I can pack everything out with me. So I'm not gonna leave anything out there. So that's it for the food situation. I think it's gonna be fairly cool out here in the Sonoran Desert, so I am all about layers. As you noticed when I started out, I had one of my longer base layers and went to this t-shirt, which is another 32-degree base layer. So I'll just layer up, and then if it gets really cold inside the tent, what I'll do is put the rain cover for additional protection. And I may take this down too, so just in case there's any high winds at night, it doesn't get blown over. This is mostly for me to be comfortable operating during the day. All right, now that we have our tasty cup of coffee, we're all ready to start our day. I want to talk about my goals for Winter Field Day 2021. I'm actually not going to submit any logs. I am going to play radio, but I want to use Winter Field Day to test a whole bunch of things. So number one, I want to see that I can actually support myself with all my gear for 24 to 30 hours. So you've seen the pack, and I think I'm going to have no problems with that loadout, even though it's 67 pounds total dry weight. Actually, 67 pounds total weight. The other thing I want to do is test two-way communication with my wife. There's one piece of item that I don't have with me right now. It's been stuck in USPS limbo land, bouncing around the country. It's actually come into my state and left and come back twice. It is the Slim Jim J-pole, and I'll put a link below of where I got that. I wanted to test it today, but unfortunately it's still not here. And I think between that and throwing it up in a Palo Verde or attaching it to my mast, I'll be able to use APRS to send my wife a text message, and I've shown her how to respond back to it so I can get that, and then I'll also be testing an email as well. Okay, so the next thing I want to test outside of that is 2 meters on my FT818. I typically use it at home, but I want to actually try it to get into my local repeater. I've never really used it out in the field for that. Typically my FT818 is just used for HF. And then I also have, I'll be running with that one, the J-pole, but I also brought the rubber duckies, so I want to do a couple of tests there. So I want to hit somebody on simplex, I want to get into the repeater, and then since I always bring my MobiLink D, which I typically pair with my Yaesu FT60R, I brought the cable so that I can actually connect the MobiLink D to the 818. So I also want to try APRS for the first time with that station or that radio. I'm gonna have 3 antennas with me. You guys already saw the Pactena Mini NFED half wave. That has proven itself multiple times in the field for me. I also ordered the random wire, and hopefully it'll be here in time. That will require some additional weight. I'll have to bring with me my Z817 tuner, so that'll probably push me closer to upwards of the 67, 68, maybe even 69 pounds total weight, given all the other gear I'm also adding. And so yeah, the J-pole, the NFED, and the random wire will be my 3 antennas. Now that I'll have the random wire, I'm going to try 10 meters, 17, 20, and 40. Maybe I'll experiment with some of the other ones on single sideband. The other experiment is solar and battery. It's actually going pretty well. Right now we're producing 550, actually 570 milliamps, which is fantastic. And the GoPro is still charging, which is quite nice. So that's already looking to be a really fantastic experiment. And I love that it's sitting above me on the tarp shelter. I also plan to test these snake boots. I've been testing it right now. I am sweating like a pig in them. But what was interesting was when I had jumped the fence to set up the antenna, there were quite a bit of holes over there, and I ran into a red racer snake. This is the second time that I've seen it here. So it was kind of validation. Earlier I said I'm going to ditch the boots. I think I may keep the boots and deal with the sweat. Instead, what I'm going to do is bring a pair of sandals with me and basically use them around the campsite, so I can basically let my feet breathe while I'm sitting out like this. There's a watering hole within about 1.5 to 5 miles from where I plan to camp. I'm going to see if I can go ahead and hit that and top off one of my water bottles or two. And then I haven't decided if I'm going to do this. I've been working on an offline FCC offline database and small progressive web application for my phone. That will require that I bring my Raspberry Pi 4, but it will run completely headless. I won't need a tablet. I can connect to it from my phone, which I'm bringing. And if that app is ready, I'm going to basically be able to see if I can do FCC call lookups completely offline in the field. All right, guys, I know I'm rambling and this is a long video. I'm doing everything in one take, so my apologies, but I really wanted to take you with me on my journey. So the last thing we're going to do today is get on the air and see if we can make a contact, and then I'm just going to play radio for a few hours out here since I have everything set up. So this dry run is going exceptionally well. I tried popping on the air and I ran into a small situation where I found a frequency where I was able to really receive well, and I wanted to jump in, and I threw out my call, and I was on the 20 meter band, and I switched to VFO-B, and I was on the 10 meter band, and I knew that I had accidentally, for whatever reason, put this into split mode operation. And I'm wondering if WSJTX with my cat control accidentally did that and enable that setting. The last time I used this radio was when I was operating digital in the shack using FT8. And I said, no problem, I have my reference cards in my chest rig. And sure enough, I did not have the reference card for the FT818. So I went inside the house, found it. It's this little guy, and I was quickly able to figure out that what I needed to do was go into the menu and turn off the split operation. So I'm back in business. I'm able to listen and transmit on the same frequency now. So this little guy, I would have missed it. So this is going directly into my chest rig. While I was in the house, I decided that the snake boots, while they do offer me quite a bit of snake protection, it's just not worth the heat and the sweat and just how uncomfortable those boots are. I also have very little sensation. I knocked over my tarp shelter like 3 times with it, so I replaced them with my Merrells. So sadly, I'm out about $140. It's no knock on those boots. I'm sure they're fantastic and offer snake protection. If I'm in a part of the country where I'm going to be going through marshes and things of that nature, I will bring them. But personally, I think I'm going to take a look and really do my research this time on a pair of leather hiking boots that are snake resistant, and then in addition to that, look into buying a pair of snake resistant gaiters, and that'll be the plan. And then just to recap, some other things that I left behind were the solar panels. And so I would say just this dry run alone, between now having the solar panels and changing out the boots, and also making sure now I have my cheat sheets for my 818ND, I think I'm pretty good to go. I still want to get on the air and make a contact. I may film that, but it was a good day today. I've been out here for about 3.5 hours, so I think Field Day 2021 is going to be a success. I know it sounds like I'm carrying a lot of gear, but guys, I'm going out minimum of 7.25 miles round trip over the course of 30 hours. If I decide to do that water hunting expedition, I'm adding another 5 miles, so having that secondary pack as a day pack will be fantastic. So If you can, you still have a couple of weeks, I would suggest going in the backyard and testing out your gear. I'm the Tech Prepper. Be strong, be safe, and be prepared.